Alongside the cool items you can gain within Risk of Rain 2, there is also an item category known as equipment. These items go into the bottom right slot, and they either offer support, passive, or offensive abilities. These are really handy, as they can often be used to aid the build you are going for. These are not going to be in any particular order, but here are some of the equipment that I like to use in my runs. So the first one I want to talk about is the Crowdfunder, and it's a great choice for survivors that have a lot of status afflicted items on them, like tri-tip daggers or some shit like that. But what does it even do? The Crowdfunder fires a continuous barrage that deals 100% damage per bullet, costs $1 per bullet, with the cost increasing over time. It does start out firing real slow, but it does take over about 5 seconds or so before it reaches max speed, and I like this equipment a lot because when it does reach max speed, it can apply effects like bleed really quickly and can be used to melt enemies with the proper build. The neat thing as well is that it can really be used on anyone. Slow hitting survivors like Mercenary, who specialize in cutting the distance and fighting in close quarters, can use this to get some range on enemies, while someone like Commander, who does fire fast and can apply bleed effectively without the Crowdfunder, it doesn't hurt to still take it though, cause then you can apply those status effects even quicker. It synergizes quite well when you can apply all these things and make a build in that direction. The downside here is that it does use money. Thankfully, this game was not made by Activision, so it's just the in-game coins that get used, but it's not really that big of a deal. If you want to use it for mobbing, then it works better on loot runs, since by the time you reach the later stages, you'll be earning so much coins that pretty much you can fire for as long as you want. However, if you want to get early on, it's still nice, but I would recommend to use it on teleport events or on enemies you're struggling to kill, since you'll most likely be low on cash from gathering items and such. I quite like taking this item with me to the Mithrax boss fight. I feel like it does make it a little bit easier when you could just use it throughout the whole fight, and also on the last phase, when he takes all your items, the Crowdfunder does not get taken, so you can focus on dodging his attacks, and while the Crowdfunder is shooting, you can use that to start regaining your items. Speaking from experience, I've used this item to win Monsoon games and Eclipse runs, so if you haven't tried it out much, give it a shot. The next item I want to talk about is probably the most busted equipment in the game, and that's the Trophy Hunter's Tricorn. It will execute any enemy capable of spawning in a unique reward, and it will drop that item. The equipment is consumed on use. Boss items, when paired up well, can create some strong ass synergies, so having an item that guarantees a drop is very powerful. Not only does it insta-kill the enemy, which is great on its own, on harder difficulties the enemies just have tons of health, especially the bosses, but it does allow the player to choose which enemy gets executed. Sometimes you might run into an enemy or a boss that does not drop a great item, so you can keep it and use it when you are ready. There's no much point using something unless you think it will benefit your run somehow. But I will say though, getting a Trophy Hunter's Tricorn is not the easiest thing in the world. It does depend on RNG from equipment barrels or getting lucky from a Shrine of Chance or something like that. So it's kind of hard to rely on an item like this, but whenever you do get it, it's pretty much always going to be worth it. Unfortunately, even though what I just said makes it sound amazing, the one and only drawback is that when the Tricorn gets used, it gets rid of it and replaces it with the consumed version of the Trophy Hunter's Tricorn, which it doesn't do anything, so what you want to do is pretty much replace it with something else. If you try to use it, it'll just print the message ahoy in your chat box, which is funny, but offers absolutely nothing apart from that, so just bin that shit. The next bit of equipment I want to talk about is a passive one. It's the Executive card. Whenever you make a gold purchase, get 10% of the spent gold back. If the purchase is a multi-shop terminal, the other terminals will remain open. I love using this because when it pays off, it's really worth it. This equipment conveniently allows you to get more items during your run, and if you somehow get unlucky and you don't see any multi-buy terminals, then at least you still get some of the money back from any purchases you make. The extra items gained can be a good way to power your character through the run. The 10% cashback is really handy too, because you want to be full full looting a stage as efficiently as you can. Gathering money is something you need to manage while still advancing, so being able to have some of that money come back to you every time you make a purchase will just result in having to spend less time on the stage, which is what you like to see. And also, you are free to swap out equipment at any time, so once you are satisfied with the usage from the executive card, then you can just swap out for something more beneficial. Another great offensive option in the equipment category is the disposable missile launcher, which fires a swarm of 12 missiles that deal 12 times 300% damage with a 45% cooldown. The launcher is great since not only does it deal pretty good damage by itself, but it synergizes well with other items to the point where it can be taken to the next level. The launcher is pretty much good for anyone, but I do like using it on survivors that use melee because having some sort of ranged attack on enemies when it gets tough allows you to focus on dodging while the missiles fire at your enemies. Since the missiles track where the enemies are, they pretty much always hit, and they do have some explosion radius, so you might even be able to hit multiple enemies with one missile if you have them grouped up well. Talking about grouping up enemies well, if you have enemies grouped up, this item also helps well with proc chains. If you can get one of your missiles to activate one of your other items, then you can create a proc chain that just decimates the enemies. It's really effective. The last piece of equipment I want to mention is the radar scanner. It's great if you're forgetful like me because it reveals all interactables within 500 meters for 10 seconds with a 45-second cooldown as well. This equipment item is good when you're starting out. Since you can see all the interactables there are, there's less chance that you go through the stage missing potential items and anything else of value that you might want to pick up. As you get better at looting though, the radar scanner does lose a little bit of its value as an item. However, it's not something that I would say you should start avoiding. Even then, it does reveal the location of cloak chests, which are normally pretty tricky to find, and also, it's not bad to just use it for simply avoiding areas of the stage. If you use the scanner and it doesn't pick up anything of value in a certain area, then you don't have to go over there. It can help you save time on your runs, which is nice, because the faster you are able to full loot a stage, the slower the enemies will progress with their strength while you are getting stronger yourself. One thing I can recommend is to use the radar scanner on an equipment drone, since it frees up your equipment slot, and also the equipment drone can activate items up to 5 times faster than what the player can do. Do keep in mind though that the drone will only activate when facing an enemy. One drawback to the radar scanner is that since some maps are bigger than others, you may find that depending on your location, it may not pick up everything. It only scans for 500 meters, so you may want to get some fuel cells or some aforementioned equipment drones to have more frequent activations to get more use of this equipment. Well, that about does it for this video though. As much as I think that equipment is really handy and some being better than others, they all can have their specific use, so it doesn't hurt to try out new ones and see where they can fit within your build. But that's a topic for another video. For now, I'll see you in the next one. Catch you.